Good morning, guys. Forgot to film what I ate before this run, but we're gonna head out now to the Rich Grissom Trail. Get a quick long run in, 8 miles. Never ran that trail before, so it should be pretty sick. It's supposed to be like all hard packed gravel, so should be nice and soft on the joints, good for an easy run. And yeah, so I'm pretty excited. So let's go head over there. Guys, I think I'm in for it, dude. A fucking fire ant, alligator, or snake's gonna take me out. We're done. Cooked. Well, we made it. See how this is. Never ran out here before. But yeah, I'll take some videos, let y'all know. So let's do it. Alright, guys. Oh, here we
Lap
go.
5,
5 miles
9:34.
A little over halfway. This trail is super pretty, super nice. Definitely glad I came out here, but fuck, there's no shade. I'm dying. Getting real sweaty, real hot. Overheating for sure. But we're over halfway done. Just got less than a 5K to go, so we're gonna complete it out here, but whew, gotta come earlier next time. All right, check in with you guys at the end. Cooked, absolutely cooked, literally and metaphorically, but we did it. Oh my gosh, guys, that after run in the car, sitting in the car, blasting the AC, drinking cold water feeling is like, I swear, it just hits different. It brings me back to the summer runs, man. I mean, we're back in the summer basically at this point, mid-March. But fuck. Like, that trail, super beautiful. I love that the whole thing was gravel, so my joints feel great. But at the same time, I may have been working a little harder to push off of that gravel, and man, there was just like zero fucking shade, not even a little shade, the entire trail. But it was beautiful, so I don't think I'm gonna take this trail completely out of the lineup, but probably won't go here every weekend, so it'll probably be like a, okay, I'm on it super early before the sun rises, or it's middle of winter, come to this trail. I think that's where this trail kind of lands for me. It's not really a go-to all the time. But yeah, if you guys live around this area and you want to go to the Rich Grissom Trail, I highly recommend it. It's basically like nobody out here. So that's nice too if you just want like a nice peaceful trail run. But yeah, that thing, man, kicked my butt for sure. But we did it, 8 miles complete. Oof. head back home, get something to eat, and chill out, man. They kick my butt. Alright, what's up guys, and welcome to my whiteboard. Why am I here? I honestly have no clue. I've had this whiteboard for like 10 years, and now that I have a YouTube channel, I figure why not film the next segment of this video right here. So yeah, at this point now we're going to talk about what my first 2 marathons have taught me. But before we get there, I wanted to really quickly go over the really most important things you need for a marathon. That way we're all kind of on the same page. Most of you probably already know this, but for someone who is thinking about doing the first marathon, they might find this really valuable, and I would feel like it's irresponsible if I don't communicate this information first. So the first thing, this is going to be really obvious, but first thing is that you need to train. I told you it's going to be obvious, but it's true. And you need to train. And I see a lot of videos on YouTube of guys like, oh yeah, I like do my first marathon without any training. Like, I mean, that's cool, that's clickbait, and it gets a lot of views, but the reality is, like, the further you go, the more dangerous it can be. And lots of things can happen to you that people like may not necessarily think about. I think, oh, it's just going for a run. Like, yeah, it's a really long distance, but it's like, what's the worst that can happen? But the reality is that there's many things that can go wrong. And number one, if you don't train appropriately for the run, you can injure yourself, sometimes severely, depending on the race conditions and the level of fitness that you're at come race day. Another thing is that if you have not trained at all and you're not typically a runner anyways, and then you go and decide, oh, I'm just going to go run a marathon tomorrow, that is a lot for the human body to do. And if the race conditions are really rough and your fitness is not really there, you could potentially break down excessive amount of muscles and basically get rhabdomyolysis, and nobody wants that, right? So make sure you train. How much? Well, it depends on what your goals are. If you want to run, just to finish, you really don't need to train that much. I would recommend 3 to 4 days a week and at least 30 miles before you run your first marathon, and also having a long run of at least 20 miles. But yeah, if you're trying to finish, you don't need that much training, but the faster time that you want, the more training you have to put in, and everybody's body is different. So just remember that. The next thing is you need to fuel. Holy shit, what a concept. You need to fuel. But a lot of people may not take this seriously, and they may just rely on the course fueling. And I mean, yeah, if you know what's going to be on the course, great. I mean, you can just rely on that. And depending on the race, that could totally work out for you. But if the conditions are really bad, aka it's hot, like 60 degrees and above, it's humid, it's very windy, you have a lot of elevation change, anything that's going to affect your heart rate and therefore your body temperature, and therefore how much energy you're expending and how much sweat you're expending. These are all things that are going to require more fueling, and so it's really important that you practice your fueling as you're doing step 1, which is your training. So making sure that you're appropriately fueled. But what do I mean by fuel? Well, you basically need 3 different things. So you need water. Everybody knows this one. H2O. You need water. You are going to sweat pretty much regardless of the conditions, and you need to replace that sweat. You need to replace that water. Otherwise, what can happen is, again, you're going to sweat, you become very dehydrated. That can lead to a lot of kidney stress, rhabdomyolysis. You can get heat stroke, all kinds of bad things. So make sure you have enough water. I know this is dipshit advice, it's fucking obvious, but a lot of times there may be people that are just crazy gung-ho, go for it, and you don't think beforehand, and there can be serious consequences. I've done a couple of races now, so I've seen people where they don't take the fueling seriously and then end up on the sidelines waiting for emergency services to pick them up. So take your fueling seriously. So you got water. What else do you need? Electrolytes. Wow. That's a buzzword nowadays. But what do I mean by electrolytes? These are the various things that your body is constantly trying to balance throughout the day. You know, things like sodium, potassium, magnesium, chloride, etc., etc. But what I mean by electrolytes here is the most important one that you lose in the highest amount of abundance, is sodium. So make sure that if your race is going to be really hot, that you're replacing sodium. That's the most important. So whatever electrolyte that you pick, make sure it's high in sodium. The other ones also matter, so make sure those are also in there. But sodium, okay? I'm even going to write it here. Sodium. Super important. Okay. Final one, carbs. So you don't actually need carbs necessarily to finish a race or do any race. However, if you're trying to reach a specific race goal, if you're trying to be competitive, you're trying to push yourself and not just run the marathon just to say you did one, carbs are your friend. Carb loading a couple days before and also during the race with gels or whatever your preferred source of carbs are can really help you have a strong finish. Why? Because during a race, your muscle's main fuel source are carbs. So when you're replenishing those carbs, it helps your muscles go for longer. Now, some people think that, if I just take more carbs and I'm already feeling like crap, it's gonna help me, right? Like I'm gonna recover. Not necessarily. Like, most important thing is fitness and how much training you put in. The reality is the main things that you really need are water and electrolytes, depending on the conditions. But carbs, if your fitness is at such a high level, you can do a marathon without any carbs. But if you want to do it at your highest, best level, highly recommend carbs. And again, there's many different sources out there. You can find the one that you like that works best for you. And I recommend trying a bunch of them as you're training to find what works best for you. So anyways, yeah, you need to fuel. So anyways, I just want to start this segment with that information. It may seem extremely obvious to a lot of you, and sorry if it did, but I feel like starting out this segment where we're all on the same page is a really good way to start, because the things that I learned in my marathons have nothing to do with that stuff. And so I just figured I'll get out the basics first. That way we're all on the same page. And then from there, kind of go into important things that I learned in my marathons. I'm going to try to make this part really quick, both of them. I don't want to keep you guys here for too long. But I think some of this information could be really valuable for somebody who is about to run their first marathon or is thinking about running their first marathon. So first of all, you have the course. There will be an image of the course right here from my Garmin Connect, so you guys can see it. A few quick points on that. It was a ultra flat course, northern part of Florida, so definitely a bit cooler. That was awesome. And also a lot of the course was had like tree canopy coverage. Like basically, it was very shaded, and so that made it a awesome race for your first marathon, and I would highly recommend it if you live in Florida. Now, getting into the lessons that I learned from this race. So what was the goal? The goal for this race was to go sub 4 hours. My first marathon ever, I was going to go sub 4 hours. I was humbled. I was very wrong. That was not going to happen. The actual time that I got was 4 hours and 32 minutes. And yeah, and I learned a lot of lessons from that. First of all, you need to run more and run faster than what you think you would need to in order to achieve your race goal. Now this, of course, with an asterisk, depends on your race goal. If you're just trying to go below sub 5 hours, for the vast majority of people, you don't need to go crazy on this. People I'm talking to, people that are trying to go sub 4 hours and below. For the average person, sub 4 hours is a really hard thing to do. And so if you want to accomplish that, you need to run more and run faster than what you think that you need to. And everybody's body's going to be a little bit different, so I can't give you guys an exact number. But what I can say is that for this race, for the prep for this race, I was running 3 days a week. It was maybe one day of intense running, but usually it was all easy runs. And my max weekly mileage got up to 37 miles. I thought this was a lot. And also my longest run was 22 miles. And so here I was thinking, okay, I did more than enough to get a sub 4 hour. But based on my body, my current fitness levels, and how the race went, I was humbled. I was very wrong. And actually at mile 17, I bonked like crazy and I had to stop. And that was not because of improper fueling or race conditions. Race conditions were pretty ideal. Low 60s. Again, a lot of the course was heavily shaded. This was because I didn't train enough. So make sure you train enough, meaning weekly mileage. But not only weekly mileage, but also make sure that you run intense enough to reach the race goal that you want to achieve. In my easy runs, I was running about a 10-minute pace, but really my goal race pace was had to be at least 9 minutes to get the sub 4. So run more, run faster than what you think. Next thing, you'll be very sore. Another piece of dipshit advice, but it's true. You're gonna be really sore. After I ran my first half marathon, to be honest, I was sore for the rest of the day, but then a day or two later, I was completely fine. So I was thinking, okay, if you double that, I'll be fine in 2 days, 3 days max, back to normal. No. When you run a marathon, you break down a lot of muscle tissue, and so that takes a long time for you to heal and to come back. And not only that, but it's a huge tax on your nervous system. So even for the few days after, you're gonna physically feel tired as well. So for the marathon, at least for me, it took probably a week and a day to fully recover from it. And the day after the race and the day after that, I was very, very sore. Joints, muscles, it's hard to walk. I was definitely taking elevators, not stairs. So you're going to be sore, but you're going to be a lot more sore than what you think. I know this is obvious, but people might underestimate this, so I wanted to bring that up. And the final thing is to celebrate crossing the finish line regardless of the race outcome. I feel like after that race, yes, I was super proud of myself. I got emotional after crossing the finish line. I may have cried, I'm not afraid to admit that. But I feel like I was also really disappointed that I didn't achieve my race goal. But to be honest, when you run a marathon, honestly, fuck the race goal. When you achieve a marathon, that is such a huge accomplishment for your body to have gone through that. Think about all the weeks and months of training that you put in, and to cross the finish line, despite all the odds, that is a huge accomplishment for yourself. It's a huge accomplishment for your body. Celebrate it regardless of the race outcome. And what I will say, from running 2 marathons and other races as well, is that the conditions play a huge role, and sometimes they don't accurately display your fitness. So don't get to the end and you're wow, I guess don't be beating yourself up saying, oh, I guess I wasn't as fit as I thought I was, I guess I didn't put in a good prep. No, you probably did. Maybe you didn't, but likely if you run enough and run fast enough, you probably did. And it was just the race conditions and the day that just got you. Honestly, marathons especially, they're so finicky because you have so much time to mess it up. So don't beat yourself up. Celebrate the fact that you crossed the finish line. It's freaking awesome. And don't be surprised if you get to the end and you get a little emotional and you cry, alright? Even us guys can do that sometimes. Me personally, I never cry, but after I finished the marathon, both of them, I cried. So you might have that happen. But that's what I learned from Jacksonville. Alright, sweet. Now on to the Tallahassee Marathon. This was my most recent marathon that I did in February of this year. And this marathon was freaking awesome, man. And it taught me so much. And so let's get right into it. So first of all, here's the course. The difference between Jacksonville and Tallahassee is that Tallahassee has way more hills. Way more hills. I don't know. I grew up in Florida my whole life. I always thought Florida had no hills. But lesson one that I learned from Tallahassee is that Florida does in fact have hills. And they're all hiding in fucking Tallahassee. So don't think that if you're from Florida and you've never been to Tallahassee, and you think there's no hills in Florida, yeah, there's hills. They're all over there. So if you're planning on running a Tallahassee marathon, train hills and train them a lot more than what you would think. I think in this race, I'm going to give you guys a kind of a news flash. I didn't get my sub 4 hour goal. That was the goal for this race too. I was very close. I got a 4:04, and I believe that 4 minute difference, really, it wasn't even my fitness. I think it was just I did not train for the hills as much as I should have, and the back half of the course, it came to bite me in the butt. So if you have a course with hills, train them more than what you would think. And for my particular case, there's not a lot of hills around where I live, so I simulated them all on a treadmill like a month before the race. I should have been training hills like my entire prep of 4 months. So yeah, make sure that if you have a race with hills, you train those appropriately. That goes on to my next point. Downhills. Downhills are awesome. If your course looks like this, don't run that race. It's not worth it. You're not gonna PR. It's gonna suck. But if your course looks like this, don't be intimidated. You should still run that. Of course, I'm just joking. But seriously though, if your race has hills, but it's not just a vertical gain into a flat, like it's a hill and you go down that hill and basically all the hills are like that, then that race can still yield a really good race result for you. And I think that played a role here. I was really nervous for the hills, but every hill that I did, yes, did it suck? Yes. Was it longer than I was expecting? Yes. But really quickly after those hills came very glorious downhills. And those downhills, not only was I going much faster than race pace, but my heart rate just sank. And I just felt like it was super easy, of course, because of the gravity assist. And so if you're kind of nervous about, you're looking at your race elevation profile and it's like, well, all these hills, it's not going to be good for my first race, or it's not going to be good for a PR. If there's a lot of downhills, like pretty much a downhill for every uphill, I wouldn't worry about it as much, but definitely make sure you train hills. But honestly, like those downhills, they give you speed boosts and they help a ton. So if you see that on your race course, don't be afraid of it. Okay, the next thing I learned from this race is you need to fuel for each race individually. Have a fueling plan for each race individually. What do I mean by that? Well, every race condition is going to be different, right? In Jacksonville, it was in the low 60s, pretty decently humid, but I knew the course was going to be heavily shaded and things like that. But it was also my first marathon, and I was freaking out about the fueling. So I drank probably 2 bottles of water before the race. I had maybe like 3 or 4 scoops of electrolytes. I had carb powder, all this stuff. And getting to the race, I had to pee like mad. I was very bloated, all this stuff. And I believe that it definitely slowed me down in the first part of the race. And for people that have more sensitive stomachs, if you get into a lot of GI distress during the race, like that can totally trash your race and totally ruin the chances of you having that, of getting the race for what you want. So fuel for each race individually, and so in Tallahassee, the race conditions there were actually like significantly better, despite the fact that there was hills. So that the race condition at the start was like 32 degrees at the start, dead wind, very low humidity, and so with all those things factored in, like the race conditions were pristine. Like yes, there was hills and that sucked, but the race conditions were pristine. And for that race, I feel very similar for Tallahassee as I did with Jacksonville, and I believe that left me potentially left a little bit of time at the end that I could have shaved off, because I was again bloated and feeling full, and at the beginning of the race I was running a bit slower. So fuel for each race individually, and if you think you have enough fuel, maybe go a little bit past that, but don't go too far. Again, pay attention to the race conditions. Like, you'd be surprised if the race conditions are ideal, how little fuel you actually need to finish the thing. But I want to put a huge asterisk there, because I also don't want to put information out there leading you guys to believe that you don't need to fuel. You do, for every single race. It's extremely important, and could save your body. But at the same time, fuel for each race individually. If you know the conditions are going to be really good, then you can back off the fuel a little bit, and that's okay. Final thing, consistent targeted practice yields great race outcomes. So, have you guys ever heard the phrase perfect practice makes perfect, not just practice makes perfect? Well, that's very, very true in running. So if you're trying to achieve a hard goal meaning anything that your body can't normally do without any sort of training, if you're trying to do that, perfect practice will yield much better outcomes for you. What do I mean by that? When you're training for a marathon, yes, you can just go out there, do a park run, and just be consistent with the running, and that will benefit you and help you in the race. But if you don't have certain targeted practice, meaning you don't have enough intensity, including tempo runs, high intensity interval runs, or you're not running enough, aka like frequency in the week, like you're not running 5 days a week or more, or you're not achieving a certain weekly mileage, then these are all things that are targeted for your race, that if you're not achieving them, it's increasing the risk of you bonking before you reach the end. So perfect practice makes perfect, not just I'm just going to go run a bunch and then go run the race. Like, if you're serious about achieving a race goal, make sure you have targeted practice. And I'll make videos on that later. And again, I'm not perfect. I've only ran 2 marathons myself, but I feel like just from running those 2, I've learned a ton. And so I'm still in the learning process too about what that actually means, that perfect practice. But do some research online, watch some videos, and make sure you have targeted practice. And you know what? A lot of running is common sense. Like, theoretically, if you could run at race pace and practice that all the time, just increase the distance until you hit a marathon, and then you go run your race, theoretically, that could work. The problem is that injury is a thing in your joints and your muscles. And so we kind of have to, as runners, we kind of have to strike that balance where we're hitting that intensity enough to increase fitness, but we're also not injuring our bodies. So finding that balance, finding that perfect practice takes time. For everyone, it's a little different. Some people, they might want to coach, and that's fine. But yeah, consistent, perfect practice yields really good race results. And obviously that happened here. We got a 28-minute PR going from 4 hours and 32 minutes in Jacksonville down to 4:04 in Tallahassee. So I believe that was due to perfect practice, and next time it's going to be way below 4 hours. Mark my words. So anyways, that's it for this video. I just wanted to kind of put that information out there. I feel like it'd be super helpful for somebody who's about to run their first marathon. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys found it informative. I wanted to say that there'll be more videos coming. So I am eyeing up a race in May, a 5K, where I'm trying to get a much bigger PR. I don't know if you guys can see that there, but my 5K PR is 23 minutes. My goal is to go sub 21. So for me, that's a pretty intimidating, scary goal, but I'm training for it as intensely as I can right now. It's about 8 weeks out. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I'll definitely be filming that. So anyways, enough rambling from my part. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. And yeah, see y'all next time. Peace.
Woo-hoo!